up next, we're going to talk about what you need to do to apply to the UC, what you need to know about paying for the UC, and also taking those tours of campuses. So in my opinion, the UC system does things a tiny bit better than the CSU. Their websites, their information, their application is a little bit more user friendly, and so it just makes things a little bit easier as a student when you are trying to go through the process of everything. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the UC has going on here. Oops, doesn't want to move forward for me. There we go. All right, so when you apply to the UC, they typically only admit upper division transfer students. I say typically because there are some exceptions to that rule. For example, UC Davis College of Ag sometimes will admit a lower division transfer student. UC Santa Cruz has admitted before. So it's an individual campus decision, and sometimes even just within the college, they decide if they will admit lower division transfer students. Just as with the CSU, you have to have been eligible for admissions as a freshman. So you will have to have taken the SAT or ACT, as well as had your A through G requirements completed while in high school. So as a fall transfer student, the application actually opens August 1st, but you cannot hit submit until November 1st. And just as with the CSU, you have until November 30th to submit that application. If you're applying for winter or spring, the application is submitted between July 1st and 30th. And again, can change every year. Typically, UC Merced and UC Riverside are open. UC Santa Cruz has been open the past few years, and a few years ago, UC Irvine opened at the very last minute. So it just kind of varies from year to year who is open. The UC application was new this year, so they did kind of a reboot of their application, and the UC, like I just said, tends to do things really well, and they made the application, which was easy before, even easier for students, and they just make things logical when you're filling it out, and kind of things go in order, which is nice. So it's one application for the 9 campuses. And sometimes you choose one major at one campus and a different major at another campus. And that's fine. That's not a problem within the UC application at all. And it's something that you can explain within your PIQs as well. So speaking of the PIQs, you have 4 personal insight questions to answer. And we will talk about this later on in the class, but these insight questions are only 250 words, so you need to be concise and think of it as a quote-unquote interview for you to get in. So they can't talk to you, and so this is their opportunity to hear your voice and learn more about who you are as a student. You're going to report all college classes and grades within your application. And so you do not want to hide anything. In fact, in the application, they will ask you why you have a gap in your education. They're pointing out to you that they see, a gap. So if you graduated high school and didn't start into college for a year or 5 years or 10 years, they're going to ask you, why is there a gap here? They're wanting to know if you attended somewhere else and you're trying not to report those grades. So you could simply just put in there, I worked full time. You do not have to give an elaborate explanation as to what you were doing. In January, you complete the UC update, which gives you the opportunity to inform the UC if there's been changes to your spring class schedule, as well as report what your grades were for the fall semester. Okay, hold on one second. All right, so the cost of the UC, this is from 1920, so 2021 is not up on their site yet, but this gives you an idea of how they break down the cost. The tuition and fees are $14,000 for the year, and that is no matter what campus you go to, and that is for full-time enrollment. The UC expects students to be enrolled full-time, and the way they see it is a third of the cost should be covered by the student, a third by the parent, and a third by the UC. And so their expectation is that, you know, you're going to be investing in your own education. And we will talk more about that when we talk about financial aid as well as scholarships. You can see room and board is, you know, especially if you're living on campus, is the heaviest fee there, $16,300. It would probably be a little bit difficult to live in Santa Rosa and to commute to Davis or Berkeley. It's definitely not impossible. Students have done it, but it's a lot. So that's something to take into consideration. You know, I've had students before apply to UC Merced, and I've asked, you know, what interests you about UC Merced? Having grown up there, I'm always curious. And a lot of times I get a great answer, which is it's affordable. I can get a UC education and live, you know, comfortably. And so that's something to take into consideration. Your room and board is going to be different compared to where you live within the state of California or where you're attending, as well as if you're living, you know, with a roommate, on your own, with a family member, all of that is going to change, okay? So living on campus, they say $36,100, living off campus, $33,200. So it's obviously going to vary as far as your own situation. And then coming back to taking a tour, just like with the CSU. So when it's possible, again, to physically visit campuses, you definitely want to take that opportunity. You know, UC Berkeley is very, very different than UC Riverside, and UC Riverside is really different from UC Davis. And so taking the time to go and explore campuses as a whole, as well as for your department. So as I mentioned with the CSU, you spend a lot of time in one building. And so you want to see what that environment is like for you and if it's a good fit. Again, you'll be doing virtual tours as an assignment for the UC, so you'll have an opportunity to get at least a little bit of a taste for what the campus is like and if you think it might be worth a physical visit for yourself. All right, so we will spend more time talking both about the application process as well as financing the UC degree further along within the class.